It's one of the oldest holidays there is, observed in every culture and every country with centuries-old tradition. It's a time for rebirth, a period of cleansing, a day to wipe the slate clean and start all over again. It's the arrival of the new year.
Hello, I'm Harry Smith, standing above Times Square. Tomorrow night, hundreds of thousands of people will be here to celebrate New Year's Eve, to witness with 500,000 of their closest friends the birth of a new millennium. As holidays go, New Year's is the most widely celebrated on the planet. And while different cultures celebrate New Year's at different times of the year, the thing they have in common is the passage of time. We think of what was, what might have been, and what might lie ahead. Join us as we celebrate New Year's with a look at the history of the world's most popular holiday.
In its simplest form, the celebration of a new year has one universal purpose.
It's the passing on of something that's left behind and the beginning of a new endeavor in life.
It is a time to welcome all the possibilities of a new year and a final chance to say goodbye to the old one.
We say mea culpa, we apologize, we confess, we pay our debts.
It is a holiday that evokes a wide range of emotions as we celebrate another year of life with both religious ritual and colorful festive tradition. New York City is buzzing with excitement. In Times Square, 500,000 jubilant people stand in the freezing cold, waiting for the countdown to midnight.
As if by magic, at 11:30, people begin to come out of the doorways, up out of the subways, from hidden places, and by 11:45, the square is full, all the way up to 57th Street.
Across town at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, couples gather for an enchanted night of caviar and champagne, dinner and dancing. For a few short hours, we're suspended in time, neither here nor there, like the bride walking down the aisle, dressed in her gown, but not yet married. Anthropologists call it the liminal period.
It's the notion of a doorway, where a boundary between this room and the next, between the inside and the outside. And what if you sustain yourself on that margin for a moment? You're in between. You're neither in nor out. You're neither past nor future.
For a brief period, the rules are suspended. We're free to turn the norms of society upside down. And as the stroke of midnight nears, the anticipation of the new year only grows. Something magical is about to happen.
And you can feel the excitement build, and as the ball drops and lowers the bottom of a 70-foot flagpole, and it lights up the new year, the noise is deafening. It's just overwhelming.
People will kiss strangers, hold hands together, and sing Auld Lang Syne, a remembrance of times past and a hope for the future. It is a kind of reassertion of the ideal norms of how we wish we could be all the time with regards to each other. Kind, generous, forgiving, and in each other's company as a tight community.
And so we cross the threshold. It's a new year, a new time, a new beginning. In London and Paris Rio and Rome, in Berlin and Moscow, Northern Ireland and Japan. It's an age-old custom practiced the world over for thousands and thousands of years. "55 miles south of Baghdad in Iraq lie the ruins of the ancient city of Babylon, one of many cities that made up the 93,000 square miles of the land once known as Mesopotamia. It is in Mesopotamia that the foundations of the first New Year rituals can be traced. The first is an ancient ceremony called Zagmu, dating back to around 2500 BC.
Zag means the edge, Mu means the year, so it's the edge of the year when the year turns over. It's not a celebration. The Zagmu is a time, mainly an accounting time, when you would end up the year's ledgers. We know that, for instance, in the temples, that it says that the goddess Nanshe, and this is from the city of Nina, which is in the south of Iraq, she would review her servants at this time, and she would ask that her accountant, Nidaba, set all the records in order.
Also unearthed here in Mesopotamia were traces of a second ceremony known today as Akitu. It was a week-long festival celebrating the renewal of the city and its continued prosperity. One ritual of Akitu required the city's great king to repent for his sins. A priest would strike him on his cheek, and if the king was truly sorry for his mistakes, the god of the city would allow him to rule for another year. The festival has worked its way into public imagination as the original New Year celebration. But unlike New Year of today, Akitu occurred twice a year, usually around the time of both the spring and fall equinox, when day and night are equal in length. In every part of the world, ancient civilizations observed astronomical changes like the equinox. They watched the length of day, the height of the sun in the sky, phases of the moon, and movement of the stars, carefully noting the changes and cycles.
People watch the horizon. They watch the sunrise. They know the length of the days. From primitive times, people have been aware of this. It gave them messages about the weather, about planting, about the harvest.
And they wanted to know when was the herd coming back, and the way to measure was the moon, how many cycles of the moon. And they figured out fairly early that it's approximately 12. That if you go with 12 cycles of the moon, the herd's back again.
A cycle had been completed and a new year had arrived. For some cultures, the wonderful rebirth of spring was considered the beginning of the year. For others, fall, when the rewards of the harvest were reaped. As societies became more developed, they carved these observations into stone, and the first calendars were born.
You have many cultures doing this task separately, each of them developing a slightly different format for how one categorizes and classifies time.
The Aztec year measured 18 months of 20 days each. The Sumerian year, 6 months of 29 days and 6 months of 30. And the Roman year at first was only 10 months long. It would later change to 12. The Romans celebrated the new year in March, but politics ruled the empire, and in 153 BC, the start of the year was officially moved to January to coincide with the first day of the new political term. January was also the month named in honor of Janus, the god of beginnings, gates, and doorways. He is a deity with two faces, one looking backward and the other forward, as he stands between the past and the future year.